Hi, I'm Christopher Platt, Mono County Library Director, and welcome to another episode of Book Talk Friday, where I'm going to talk about a couple of titles you'll find in Mono County libraries, one old and one new. Let's start with the new. The author Kwan is known for best-selling Crazy Rich Asians series, 3 books to date that are kind of like newer versions of Jackie Collins or Sidney Sheldon or Danielle Steele. In other words, fun, contemporary, sexy suspense reads detailing the foibles and hijinks of the very, very rich. I've not read any of those, but I did see the movie Crazy Rich Asians and I thought it was fun. His latest novel is Sex and Vanity. Unlike those other books, which were set in Hong Kong and Singapore, Sex and Vanity is set in Italy, between the Isle of Capri and also the Hamptons on Long Island in New York. The main characters, however, are still Asian or Asian American. The main character here is Lucy Churchill, who we meet at the beginning as she's attending a wedding as a 19-year-old with her cousin Charlotte, who is her chaperone. Lucy is attracted to another wedding guest named George, and something happens. Fast forward a few pages on, 5 years later, Lucy is engaged to Cecil Pike, who is garish new money compared to the sophisticated old money family that Lucy comes from. George, from the wedding earlier, reappears in her life and hijinks ensue. The publisher blurb describes it as a comedy of manners between two cultures. Now, do those characters' names sound familiar? They will if you've read E.M. Forster's A Room with a View. Kwan explicitly crafted Sex and Vanity to be an homage to that classic novel. I will say it holds up to it, although very contemporary. What passes for genteel in 2020 America is very different than what passed for genteel in 1908 England, and there's a lot more partying in Sex and Vanity than in the original Room with a View. Which brings me to the old. You guessed it, E.M. Forster's A Room with a View. Forster was an English author who wrote in the early 1900s, his most famous titles being A Room with a View, A Passage to India, and Howard's End, all of which were made into successful movies in the 80s and 90s. If you haven't read the books, you may have seen the movies. A Room with a View came out in 1908 and is a slim and easy read. It centers on what Forster does so well in most of his books, which is take stuffy, uptight, overdressed English characters and drop them in hot, romantic, languid locations like Italy, where they have to loosen their ties and unbutton their shirts a little just to breathe, and learn to deal with, or even be seduced by, people and cultures that wear their hearts and desires more on their sleeves. So in A Room with a View, we find young Lucy Honeychurch on a trip to Florence, Italy, chaperoned by her older cousin Charlotte, when she crosses paths with a dashing young Englishman who is also visiting. She finds herself confused by feelings of desire and repulsion until in a fit of romantic pique, because this is 1908, the young man is overcome by her beauty and kisses her, which gets discovered, and all the stuffy Englishness around her steps into war with the romantic feelings that the young man unleashed. In other words, hijinks ensue. But the thing is, Forster's book isn't at all stuffy. Forster wasn't a romance writer. He really writes these as comedies of manners and comments on society. The book itself is actually quite funny and is a quick and easy read. It was written over a century ago, so parts of it are dated, but the core of the psychological hoops we find Lucy Honeychurch jumping through feel very contemporary, as Kwan so ably demonstrated in Sex and Vanity. Both of these titles are available in Mono County Library collections. Remember, if your local library doesn't carry it, you can request it to be sent to your library for pickup using your library card in our online catalog or by contacting your local library branch for assistance. Our website is in the link of the bio of this social media account. In the meantime, stay safe and happy reading.